A very pleasant good evening from the radio service of Freedom Communications Incorporated in Monrovia. A warm welcome to this midweek Wednesday, April 13, 2022 presentation of Freedom News Basket. 45 minutes of the latest captivating news happenings in Liberia and elsewhere. I'm Jeff Jefferson anchoring this edition of the news program. In the headlines, First Lady Claire Mariwia dedicates modern state-of-the-art Army Wives Association Vocational Training Center in Shefflin. The Army Barracks, there's the Cassidy being Army Barracks as part of her flagship program, the She's You movement. Montserrat County Senator Darius DeLeon suffered setback at the 6th Judicial Circuit Court following a motion to quash Liberty Party Chairman Musa Bedete rate of attachment against him, which was denied by the court as provided by law. A Liberian lady has been arrested for allegedly transporting 54.2 grams of cocaine at the Monrovia Central Prison for business with the inmate. And today marks 1 year since the death of student Precious Ireland of the Saba Ed Christian School in Sophie. Several students today present a petition statement to government through the Ministry of Education to caution school authorities to take steps aimed at reducing or combating drug activities in schools and students going to schools with dangerous weapons. Away from home, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, this is on Wednesday, visited bereaved families in the eastern coastal state of Durban affected by devastating floods after record rains which have killed about 60 people, according to AFP News. The details of these developments, the voices of the newsmakers, the news bulletin, the foreign development posts are packaged in this edition of the news program. Freedom News Basket is proudly associated with Crime Stoppers Liberia, Orange Liberia, and Aqua Live. You can follow us online at www.freedomradioliberia.com and Freedom TV Liberia. At this juncture, we cross over to the news center where Hagar Gonda is seated to read for us the bulletin. A very pleasant good evening, Hagar.
Good evening, Jeff, and good evening to our audience. First Lady Claire Weir has dedicated a modern state-of-the-art Army Wives Association Vocational Training Center as part of her flagship program, the She's You movement. Speaking at the dedicatory ceremony Wednesday at the Edward B. Cassidy Military Barracks in Shefflin Town, Margibi County, the First Lady said the Army wives deserve the very best in acquiring basic skills through vocational training. According to the First Lady, the facility is in fulfillment of her promise to the Army wives to give them hope in integrating themselves in the Liberian society to support their partners in the Army. Meanwhile, First Lady Claire Weir said the facility is valued at over 125,000 United States dollars and comprises the main training building with classrooms, offices, and a reservoir for safe running water, among others. However, the First Lady also donated 10,000 United States dollars to the Army wives and encouraged them to use the facility to their greatest advantage in the transformation of Liberia. Meanwhile, providing the background of the Army Wives Vocational Training Center, the administrator of the Army Wives Association program, Afrida Mann, said the Army Wives Association Training Center was established in 2019 as a self-help initiative to empower spouses of the personnel of the Armed Forces of Liberia. She also lauded the First Lady for the initiative, noting that it will help greatly in empowering the Army wives. Montserrat County Senator Darius DeLeon has suffered setback at the 6th Judicial Circuit Court, known as Civil Law Court. Senator DeLeon's Wednesday's motion to quash Liberty Party Chairman Musa Belete's rate of attachment was denied by the court as provided by law. Judge Kennedy Peabody Wednesday ruled that the issue of immaterial contained in the 1986 Constitution of Liberia does not go beyond legislative section, contrary to Senator Dillon's lawyer claim. Judge Peabody said a senator or representative is immune from civil and criminal lawsuit for his express action in section, but not out of section. Judge Peabody's ruling maintained that Senator Dillon will continue his daily sign-in with the sheriff's office until he file a indomitable bond to cancelability's rate of attachment. Montserrado County Senator Darius Dillon has been finding it difficult to meet his daily obligation of signing in since Liberty Party Chairman Musa Beliti filed an action of damage lawsuit against him in the tune of $1 million at the Civil Law Court. A Liberian lady has been arrested for allegedly transporting 54.2 grams of cocaine at the Monrovia Central Precinct for business with the inmates. Suspect Vera Blair, who has gone to the facility on Monday to visit her play son, only identified as Blow, was caught with the drug by prison officers while searching her things before making her way. The female suspect was turned to the Liberia Drug Enforcement Agency on the same day for investigation and later transferred to the West Point Magisterial Court on Tuesday for criminal prosecution. She was charged for unlicensed possession of drug in violation of Chapter 14, Section 107 of the New Penal Law of Liberia. Our judicial correspondent further said that suspect Vera Blair has since been remanded at the Monrovia Central Prison pending court trial. The Ministry of Health says it has in its possession an investigative report issued by the Global Funds Office through its Inspector General on April 8, 2022, pertaining to examination of the TB and HIV and malaria health system, strengthening grants implemented by the MOH as principal recipient. The ministry, in a release issued Wednesday, said it appreciates the effort of the Global Fund and its desire to safeguard and ensure transparent implementation of all Global Fund's grants generally. However, the release advised for the proper management of the grant, noting that it is very important for the attainment of the overall goal of the Global Funds, which is to invest the world's money to end HIV and AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria. The release further that akin to that of the Global Fund, the goal of the Ministry of Health is to improve the health status of the population of Liberia on an equitable basis, while the ministry is guided by principles such as efficiency, accountability, and transparency in the discharge of its duties like the Global Fund. The ministry in the release noted that consistent with the ministry's desire to discharge its duty in line with established guiding principles, the ministry is analyzing the report to inform actions to be taken. The release added that it is important to note that the OIG investigation was triggered by the ministry when it discovered irregularities at one of the programs, the National AIDS Control Program by Internal Audit Unit of the ministry in 2020, after which the ministry asserted the Global Funds in keeping with the grant agreement. The Center for Transparency and Accountability in Liberia, or CENTAL, has alarmed over recent allegations of corruption at the Liberia Institute for Statistics and Geoinformation Services. Addressing a news conference Wednesday in Monrovia, the executive director of CENTAL, Anderson Miami, stressed that the allegation of corruption emanating from legacies is not in the interest of the country and the citizenry. According to Miami, the allegation, if not taken seriously by national government, has the propensity to destroy the image of the country and thus to international partners and scare away investors. Miami stressed the need for the dismissal of some top officials at Legis due That's in an effort to safeguard the image of the agency. He also called for the protection of whistleblowers by government as a way of ensuring that ills in society are exposed. My Gibi County District 1 Representative Tiberusa Tapue has described the dedication of a state-of-the-art vocational facility in his district by First Lady Clara Mariwia as vital for the wives of men in the army. Speaking Wednesday in the district during the dedication of the facility, Representative Tapue lauded the First Lady for the initiative and said it will go a long way. He, however, assured the First Lady that the community will do everything to make sure that the aim and objective of the training is be realized and accomplished. The Maikibi County District 1 lawmaker also encouraged the Army wives that the celebration of the facility should not only be the end, but they should take advantage of the facility to support their husbands in the Army. He also disclosed that his office has begun procuring materials for the training center to include computers, among others. The Federation of Liberian Youth Law has appointed its independent ad hoc electoral commission to conduct the national youth election, which is slated for April 28th to the 29th. According to a release from the organization, the president shall appoint in consultation with the National Executive Council or commission, committees, and specialized units of work or persons needed to facilitate the activities of the Federation. The release further that the appointment is in keeping with the 2018 amended Constitution of the Federation of Liberian Youth Law, Article 13, Section 2.1b, duties and function of the office of the President. Those appointed to serve the electoral body of FLA-I, Anthony Williams as chairman, Clarence Flomo as co-chair, Siafa Kamukai as secretary general, Bindu Kamara member, Kizolene Johnson member. The release maintained that the preferment of the above-mentioned personalities to serve in the various capacity of the Electoral Commission is based on their respective outstanding performances in the electoral, that's the national youth movement of the Republic. A Liberian legal practitioner, Councillor Herbert Glasgow, is pleading with the Ministry of Justice to release the investigation report surrounding Officer Clarence Clark, LDA commander of the Kingred Airport. Commander Clark has since been accused of arresting some Nigerian nationals in that area and reportedly stole several valuables from the Nigerian, including money. Councillor Herbert Glasgow request to the ministry was triggered by Commander Clarence Clark's April 9 search and seizure warrant obtained from the Painesville Magisterial Court against the same Nigerian national. The Nigerian were arrested for allegedly being in possession of drug when Commander Clark and men apprehended them. Our judicial correspondent said during the search, the Nigerian national accused the commander and his men of allegedly taking over 250 United States dollars and other valuable items from them before forwarding them to court for prosecution. Indian businessman Abjet Jetty has donated 25 bags of 25 kg rice to the Mike Gibby Prison Center. Speaking during the donation, Jetty disclosed that the initiative is his way of identifying with inmates at the Mike Gibby Prison. He also promised to keep identified with prisoners in that part of the country. Jetty also noted that he has been identifying with other prisoners to include the Monrovia Central Prison, among others, while he also stated that he has been providing hot meals for inmates at several prison centers in the country. Meanwhile, Maikibi County Superintendent Jerry Vanning, on behalf of the prison, appreciated Jetty for providing rice for the inmates, noting that Jetty has a good heart. He added that rice will be used for the intended purpose as he encouraged others to follow suit. Residents of the Lofa Community Car Wash have begun a self-help road and bridge construction project in Montserrat County District 2 and 4 respectively. The project, which is being supported by the Ripco Manufacturing Company through the Office of the Commissioner of Johnsonville, when completed, will ease constraints faced by residents of the community in both districts. Speaking to Freedom News at the site of the construction Wednesday, the chairman of the car wash community, Arthur V, called on other well-meaning Liberians and residents of the area to buttress efforts of the community in the ongoing road project. According to V, the area has been a death trap for women and children, including people living with disabilities, especially during the rainy season, and as such, the need for swift intervention cannot be overemphasized. The car wash community chairman further that the community is a waterland as such. The construction of the bridge and rehabilitation of the road is important. Also speaking, the chairlady of the Council of Johnsonville, Joyce Nyakwa, thanked the community dwellers and Ripco Factory for their commitment in making sure that the project is implemented in the community. According to her, the presence of the young people and other residents at the project site signify their willingness to ensure that relief is brought to the community through the road rehabilitation work. Liberian Christians have joined other Christians around the world in observance of Easter. Easter or Restoration Sunday is a Christian festival and cultural holiday commemorating the resurrection of Jesus from the dead, described in the New Testament as having occurred on the third day of his burial following his crucifixion by the Romans at the Calvary in 30 AD. It is the culmination of Passion of Jesus, preceded by Lent, a 40 days period of fasting, praying, and penitence. Most Christians refer to the week before Easter as Holy Week, which begins on Palm Sunday, marking the entrance of Jesus in Jerusalem. The family of a 1 year 9 month old child, AC Nangwe, has accused the authority of Peace Home Clinic in Painesville Township of misapplying medication leading to the death of their child while she was undergoing treatment at the facility. The late AC Nangwe, according to family accounts, met her untimely death over the weekend at the Peace Clinic in Painesville while undergoing treatment. Speaking with reporters Wednesday at the Peace Clinic facility, the mother of the late AC Nangwe, Madame Martha Flomo, narrated that the nurse only identified as Helena allegedly misapplied the quinine treatment in the drip after she told her that the treatment is not good for the child. According to Madame Flomo, she took the child for the first time at the Peace Home Clinic on Thursday, April 7, for a check while she was suffering from illness. She furthered that after discharging them a few hours later, her baby went unconscious and subsequently passed off. Well, Jeff, that's it for the news bulletin. It's back to you for the continuation of the news program.
Many thanks. Many thanks to Higa Gona for reading us the bulletin. Higa will return later with the foreign development and the business developments. In one of the top stories we're following tonight, First Lady Clara Mary Weir dedicates a modern state-of-the-art Army Wives Association Vocational Training Center as part of her flagship program, the She's You movement. As well, today marks the 1 year anniversary since student Precious Ireland was shot dead by her fellow student at the Saba Ed Christian School in the Sophie Community, Totman Boulevard. Students from across Liberia today gather at the executive mansions to petition thus the executive mansion to the petition government through the Ministry of Education to take steps aimed at curtailing handling issues of drug activities in school and students going to school with dangerous materials. We're taking a break. When we come back, we'll bring you the voices of those making the news. Let's bring you the voices of the newsmakers. First Lady Claire Marie Weir has dedicated a modern state-of-the-art Army Wives Association vocational training center as part of her flagship program, the She's You movement. Speaking at the dedicatory ceremony on Wednesday at the Edward B. and Kessley Barrack in Shuffling Town, Margibi County, the First Lady said the Army wives deserve the very best in acquiring basic skills through vocational training. According to the First Lady, the facilities in fulfillment of a promise to the Army wives to give them hope and integrated themselves in the Liberian society and to support their partners in arms.
They deserve the very best, and this is why we're here today. The new Liberia we seek in this dispensation is a Liberia where promises must be kept in order to fulfill the hopes, dreams, and aspirations of our people to remain alive. Today's visit is a promise fulfilled. Little over 2 years ago, I visited the EBK barrack, responding to a request from the Army Wives Association. As excited as I was of the enthusiasm and the will of the Army Wives to acquire needed skills through their vocational training center, I was also saddened because of the challenges they face with the inadequacy of the space and the lack of needed tools to effectively conduct the requisite training. It was at the end of my visit, after listening to them and touring their facility, that I made a promise. Today, I have returned to fulfill my promise. And in the fulfillment of this promise, we desire to move our Army wives from the valley of despair to a buoyancy of new hope. Hope that will remind them that they are an integral part of who we are as Liberians, and that their support to their spouses, our men in arms, is much appreciated. In the fulfillment of this promise, we affirm that our Army wives deserve to acquire needed skills and education in order to become empowered and live fulfilled lives, not just as wives and men in arms, but as Liberian women who continuously serve as roots that strengthen the tree of our nation.
The voice of Liberia's First Lady Claire Marie Weir speaking Wednesday when she dedicated a modern state-of-the-art Army Wives Association Vocational Training Center. As you may be aware, the First Lady has a program under the banner She's You movement that has been contributing immensely to the development agenda of Liberia. More of this development will come up in our subsequent newscast. But let's commend the First Lady for her continued support to the development of Liberia. Well, in the wake of Montserrat County Senator Darius DeLone lawsuit filed against him by Liberty Party Chairman Musa Belete. As you may recall, Senator Dillon was told by criminal court that the civil law court to appear weekly working days to sign in since he and his legal team were unable to sign an indemnity bond following the lawsuit of damage filed against him by Musa Belete. Well, Wednesday, the Montserrat County Senator suffered a serious setback. His motion to quash Liberty Party Chairman Belete's rate of attachment was denied by the court as provided by law. Well, following the ruling by the court, Musa Belete lawyer at Johnson spoke with our judicial correspondent.
The ruling of the judge today was good to set standard in our country, because the argument of Senator Dillon in the court on the basis of the motion to quash the attachment is that he was saying, as senator, he is immune from any civil proceeding, particularly the rate of attachment. What he was saying was that while as senator, even also in the political debate, whatever he says, whether it damages the reputation of another person, he is immune, meaning he is protected. Nobody can do anything to him. That was his argument. And we have told him over and again consistently, for which indeed today we are happy that the court has ruled consistent with law, that the issue of immunity that we'll talk about or written in the Constitution does not go beyond the legislative section. A senator or a representative is protected and is immune from civil suits, criminal action for his expressions, for his actions, for his votings in the section, in the legislature. Not when he gets out of the legislature, he makes a derogatory statement that tarnishes the repetition of another person, and then he say that is what the Constitution says. No, that was not the contemplation of the framers of the Constitution. So that's why you see the judge went to the historicity of the clause of what legislative immunity. It started in Great Britain. The intent was to protect the legislators when they are deliberating in section, whatever they say in section, just as we the lawyers are protected when we go to court. Whatever we say in court, you cannot hold us responsible when we say it in court. Now, when you come outside and you say somebody is a criminal, that's not a legislative function. When you come outside and say that man is a rogue, that's not a legislative function. That is what the court was saying today. And now there is a need and there's a reason why this particular ruling is important for our society. Because
he's the lawyer representing the legal interests of Liberty Party Chairman Musa Belite, responding to George Kennedy Peabody Wednesday rule against the lawyers of Montserrat County Senator Darius Dillon. So Senator Dillon will continuously sign in with the sheriff at the criminal, that's the civil law court, since he has failed to file in an indemnity bond for damage of 1 million United States dollars, as was filed by the the lawyers representing Musa Belite. The United States Department of State has released its 2021 County Reports, the country reports on human rights practices in Liberia. The report addressed the issues to include respect for the integrity of the person, respect for civil liberties, freedom to participate in the political process, corruption and lack of transparency in government, governmental posture towards international and non-governmental investigation of alleged abuses of human rights, discrimination, society abuses, and workers' rights. Jeff Jefferson of our staff have read through the reports and has their details. The United States Department of State has released its 2021 country reports on human rights practices in Liberia. The report addressed the issues to include respect for the integrity of the person, respect for civil liberties, freedom to participate in the political process, corruption and lack of transparency in government, governmental posture towards international and non-governmental investigation of alleged abuses of human rights, discrimination and societal abuses, and workers' rights. The report indicated significant human rights issues such as arbitrary killings by police, cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment by the police, harsh and life-threatening prison conditions, and arbitrary arrest or detention. The report also indicated serious problems with the independence of the judiciary, restrictions of freedom of the press, including violence, intimidation, and threats against journalists resulting in self-censorship and unjustified arrest of journalists. Additionally, the report outlined serious government corruption, lack of investigation and accountability for gender-based violence, including the child early and forced marriage and female genital mutilation. Also, the report addressed the issue of trafficking persons, crimes involving violence or threats of violence targeting lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and intersex persons, the existence or use of laws criminalizing consensual same-sex sexual conduct between adults, and existence of the worst forms of child labor. On the issue of impunity, the United States Department of State said impunity in Liberia continued for individuals who committed human rights abuses, including atrocities, during the two Liberian civil wars, stating that multiple investigative and audit reports were ignored by government. The release further that the Liberian government made intermittent but limited attempts to investigate and prosecute officials accused of current abuses, whether in the security forces or elsewhere in the government, noting that impunity continued for corruption in government. The report was compiled by the United States Embassy near Monrovia. There are reports that the current U.S. ambassador to Liberia, Michael McCarthy, has been a critic of the Liberian government. Does the report under Ambassador McCarthy was delivered to the U.S. Department of State represent the actual happiness in Liberia, or does the report has sinister motive aimed at undermining the CDC-led government? Reporting for Freedom News, I'm Jeff Jefferson. At this juncture, with a couple of minutes past the half-hour mark, we will cross over to our sports desk as we join Thomas Kujo, who would like to bring us the passion. Good evening, Thomas.
A pleasant good evening, Jeff. Good evening to everyone, and welcome to the Passion Live. Ahead of the dedication of the Invisible Sports Park this Friday, the 15th of April, major guests including African football legends invited by President George Weah have started to arrive in the country through the Rabos International Airport. The major guests are arriving in the country ahead of the dedication of the program that is expected to be held on Friday in the LV, when President George Weah will be commissioning the newly established Sports International Park in the country. Speaking to scores of journalists on Wednesday when guests started to arrive in the country, Youth and Sports Minister Ziokat Wisdom appreciated President George Weah for the construction of the Invisible Sports Park. According to Minister Ziokat Wisdom, the construction of the sports park will give rise to many other parks in the country, and as such, it will develop the skills of many other football talent in the country. Also speaking to scores of journalists at the Rabos International Airport on Wednesday, the president of the Liberia Football Association lauded President George Weah for the initiative and said this is going to open a way for many other initiatives in the country. President Mustafa Rajid said the commencement of the sports park and other major sporting activities in the country will give rise to the country to participate in major international competition. He said, when turned over to the Liberia Football Association, will have no intention but to get hold of the Invisible Sports Park, which will be managed by sports lovers within the country. Speaking as one of the guests arriving in the country of Liberia, former Arsenal forward in Togolese International Emmanuel Adebayo praised the former football legend President George Weah for the Invisible Sports Park and promised that when dedicated, the sports park will serve as a gateway to other initiatives within the country. The former Togolese International, who helped Togo to the first ever World Cup in 2006, also lauded sports journalists in Liberia for also promoting the game of football in Liberia and other sports in the country. Ahead of the pending Liberia football election expected to be held on the 18th of April this year, Executive Committee member Hofold and former Liberian international goalkeeper Edwin Kai have called on football stakeholders in Liberia to unite ahead of the election. Speaking as one of the panelists during the debate conducted by the Liberia Football Association and the Democratic Initiative headed by John Collett, Edwin Kai said it is time that football stakeholders put behind their differences and unite for the common good of the country. Kai said for too long, the national team of Liberia has been away from the Nations Cup, something he said is a hindrance to the growth and development of the country's sports infrastructure and the participation of major football stakeholders in the country. And away from home, the quarterfinal stage of the UEFA Champions League continued, with two matches taking place currently in Europe. In England, between Liverpool and Benfica, it is goalless. While Atletico Madrid are hosting Manchester City in Spain. At the moment, it is goalless. Liverpool will be hoping to seal the draw or a 1-0 defeat for them with Putin's through, while Atletico Madrid will be hoping to overturn their first 1-0 defeat against Manchester City if they are to book the semi-final stage against Real Madrid. Well, Jeff, that's it for the Passion of Life.
Thomas Kujurula in the Passion, a regular feature on Freedom News Basket, where the excitement is beginning as football legends across Africa and elsewhere are coming to Liberia to witness the dedication of official commissioning of the Invisible Sports Park that has several features or that includes tennis court, basketball courts, and you just name it. Quite an exciting moment for sports fanatics in Liberia. Today's development now, where today marks 1 year since the killing of student Precious Ireland by our fellow student Savannah Toure. It can be recalled April 2021, Savannah Toure shot student Precious Toure, that's student Precious Ireland at the Sabo Air Christian School. Reports taking that the student mistakenly shot his colleague. But the question is, how was it possible that the student Savannah Toure could go to school, attend school with a gun in his bag without the securities or even teachers at the institution taking notice of such? That has necessitated students to gather in Monrovia on Wednesday at the grounds of the Zahida Mansion to petition government through the Ministry of Education, calling for vigorous attention to drug activities in school that will curb students taking drugs or even applying drugs while on campus, and students taking with them to school dangerous weapons. Preventing the statement to the Ministry of Education Wednesday, Terry Nimley cautioned government to take actions and called on the Ministry of Education particularly to ensure that such incident that occurred on April 30, 2021 does not repeat itself. Let's listen to Terry Nimley reading this statement.
Today, April 13th, 2021 will continue to be a scar on the islands of Cyber Christian School and Liberians at large. It remains a terrible memory because it was a day Liberia lost a vibrant young citizen full of so much potential. A young lady who could have gone on to aid her community and her people in so many ways. But this never come to be, as her young life was cut short, along with her dreams and the aspirations of her parents. This tragedy could have been avoided if the elements of a safe school environment been rightfully in place. You educators and national policymakers refer to us as the nation's future. Yet the places meant to prepare us to become this future are proving detrimental to any positive development. So where are our futures? The premature death of Precious Ireland has left us asking, what are the functions of the securities posted at our school's entrances? How did a gun that killed Precious make its way to the Cyber and Christian School's gates? How is there no proper monitoring in schools and on campuses? How come school administrators are not aware of the transactions of illegal drugs and other harmful substances on school grounds, causing younger and younger children to degenerate into circles? We are afraid that if care is not taken now to kill the proliferation of illegal drugs and guns in our schools, hundreds of other school-going children will have no future, or worse, end up like Precious. Today, we, alongside the Precious Pearl Island Foundation, our families, friends,
In response to the petition, Minister of Education Ansel Soni assured the students that the ministry will ensure that such situation that led to the death of student Precious Ireland will not repeat, as vigorous actions will be taken to ensure that deadly weapons are not taken to schools and that students do not take drugs while in school.
The government of Liberia, who are represented standing here, standing also on the feet of the president, to indicate very clearly that this is not one of the things that anyone in this country would have anticipated. I've lived in this country all my life. This, the first of a kind. I'm not suggesting that there has not been violence in school, but this has never happened. And this particular one is just too many, and I'm hoping that it never happens again. But again, we must take the steps to make sure that it does not happen. We are beginning with the public school. In the midst of financial constraints, the government is hiring 200 female counselors to be assigned all government secondary schools. We know it's difficult. We could have used our money to hire teachers, but the child has to be alive to be fruit. So we are taking some of the resources that we did not have to hire all bachelor's and master's degree women to serve as female guidance counselors in every secondary school, because it's considered that when the kids have gone beyond 8th to 9th grade, then some of them begin to see themselves as adults. No, you're not. You're no adult. You're a child when you're in secondary school. I don't care what you take yourself or who born you. You are a child when you are in secondary school. You have rights, but the only right you have is to learn. First.
His Education Minister and Susoni speaking Wednesday when concerned students petitioned the government through the ministry to ensure that such incident that led to the death of Precious Ireland on this day 2021 does not repeat, and that actions should also be taken to address the issue of drugs in school. We've also received reports that a foundation has been launched in honor of Precious Ireland to address issues in schools. Stay ahead of the news is the foreign development. Let's listen to this development which will precede the foreign development. Liberian Christians have joined other Christians around the world in the observance of Easter. Easter, or Resurrection Sunday, is a Christian festival and cultural holiday commemorating the resurrection of Jesus from the dead, described in the New Testament as having occurred on the third day of his burial following his crucifixion by the Romans at Calvary in AD 30. It is the culmination of the Passion of Jesus, preceded by Lent, a 40-day period of fasting, prayer, and penance. Most Christians refer to the week before Easter as Holy Week, which begins on Palm Sunday, marking the entrance of Jesus in Jerusalem. One of the churches in Liberia commemorating the Easter week is the Spoken Word Ministry in Pingsville. The church, like other churches across the country, has organized Easter activities to reflect on the death and resurrection of Christ. One of the guest speakers to grace the activities is Pastor John Tim Holmes, General Superintendent of Gospel Fellowship International in the United States. This is his message to the Christian community in Liberia.
I returned back to Liberia a few years ago, and I saw wonderful changes taking place. I saw smiles that I had never seen before in this way upon the faces of the people, and I was so happy to see that. But I believe God wants to do more for the people of Liberia. They are special in the eyes of God. I see a great light rising on the horizon of Liberia. God will bless your leaders. God will give them wisdom. God will anoint his servants in Liberia to do great things for the kingdom of God. I want to do my part to stand with the people of Liberia in any way I can, through love, through works, and through vision. God bless each and every one of you noble Liberians who are rising up like the Bereans. A great revival is before you because you are taking God at his word. Let's unite together, be of one mind, one heart, and one accord. And may the God of heaven send the rushing mighty wind and baptize all of you with his love, his joy, and his lovely spirit. In Jesus' name, amen.
He is Pastor John Tim Holmes, General Superintendent of the Gospel Fellowship International in the U.S., who is one of the keynote speakers of Easter activities organized by the Spoken Word Ministries in Liberia, headed by Reverend Say Silas Pensey. At this juncture, we will now reach John Hager to briefly lead us through the latest news in the business community, and then he will wrap up with the foreign development.
Thank you, Jeff. The price of gasoline remain constant on the Liberian market, with at least $10 drop in other places. Gas now is being sold in other places at $7.50, while many of those business or retailers are selling gasoline at 760 Liberian dollars. The price of chicken remains constant on the Liberian market, 3,600, and a tin of ago oil is 6,600, while a bag of rice is being sold for at least $14 at retail price and $13.50 at wholesale price. And now in foreign developments, South Africa President Cyril Ramaphosa on Wednesday visited bereaved families in the eastern coastal city of Dubai affected by devastating floods after record rains, which have killed about 60 people, AFP journalist noted. In Clermont, a poor suburb of the port city open to the Indian Ocean, he promised aid to a family that lost 4 children who died on Monday night under the rubble of a section of their house that collapsed. With clubs hand, the father told the head of state about the water rising in the middle of the night, the panic in the dark with the electricity cut off and his children asleep in another room that he was unable to save. Well, Jeff, that's it for the foreign and the business development.
Gagonda is taking us on this presentation of the news program. Just before we leave you, a recap of the major developments we've been following. Good news for wives of Army personnel as they will receive vocational training to support their husbands in arms following the dedication of a modern state-of-the-art Army Wives Association Vocational Training Center built by First Lady Clamarie as part of her flagship program, the She's You movement. Montserrat County Senator Darius Elon suffered setback at the State Judicial Circuit Court following George Kennedy Peabody denying his legal team a rate of attachment for the senator to not sign in daily as required by the court since his failure to file an indemnity bond of damage that was a lawsuit filed against him by Liberty Party chairman Musa Bedete. A Liberian lady has been arrested for allegedly transporting 54.2 grams of cocaine at the Monrovia Central Prison for business with the emails. And today marks 1 year since student Precious Ireland was shot dead by fellow student Savannah Story at the Sabo 8 Christian School as students across the country gather at the Executive Mansion to call on government through the Ministry of Education to take steps that will curb such action from repeating in the country. Away from home, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa on Wednesday visited bereaved families in the eastern coastal city of Durban affected by devastating floods after record rains which have killed about 60 people, according to AFP news agency. The invitation is yours to join us tomorrow morning at 6 for Freedom News Inside, a magazine news program that will bring you the details of all the stories that we've brought to you on this presentation of the news program. Thanks to Higagona who read us the news bulletin, the business report, and our foreign development. Thomas Kujorola read us sports. Abraham Kamara coordinated the sounds and controlled the live television. Thanks for viewing. Thanks for listening. Keep following us online at www.freedomradiolibrary.com for more news and information. On behalf of the entire team, have been your presenter, Jeff Jefferson. Good evening from Monrovia.